what a weekend it was. I mean, in all seriousness, when we got used to Joe Biden going to the beach at Delaware and falling asleep and not really doing much of anything on an entire weekend, Trump in this past weekend, if you consider from the time basically we got to Friday, I tweeted this out, but just think about all the things that have happened that are of major consequence. The trade deal with China, which let's start off the top. I know we've been doing market reports over the last 6 or 8 weeks. I hope you, at minimum, held on to your stock. And I hope that in a best case scenario, you bought the dip, as I know many of you did. The S&P 500 up 2.5% today. The Dow Jones was up over 1,000 points, now up around 900 points. All of April's downcast market results have been reversed, and we now are above where we were going into the election week. So things have turned in a very positive direction there. And I hope that you did not fall victim to the doom and gloom and, hey, the entire country is falling apart, which many people tried to argue in April. I hope you stood strong. So trade deal with China, we will get into some of the impact of that. Kind of a big deal. We also had an in-person meeting brokered for Trump between Ukraine and Russia. We'll see what ends up happening there. Obviously, we want there to be a ceasefire and peace. We know that the Trump administration, through Marco Rubio, helped stop a potential war between India and Pakistan, which, Buck, you talked about several weeks ago as, hey, this is a story that's not getting a lot of attention, but given the dangers and the inherent long-running conflict between those two countries with nuclear weapons, that could be an issue. We got to end, hopefully, to some element of big pharma profiteering, Trump trying to take arms against those businesses and saying, why are you price gouging the American consumer and you're not charging anywhere near as much elsewhere? And we now are getting the final American hostage, Edon Alexander, released by Hamas. Any one of those would be a huge story. All of them happened in one weekend. And, Buck, it is a testament to the fact that Trump never stops working. He's on his way to the Middle East right now. But after a long time where it didn't feel like very much was being done at all, Trump is just executing on a level that, frankly, we haven't seen in a very long time.
There's also the executive order on prescription drugs. Did you hit that one?
I did hit it,
list.
which I love. I think is significant. And just goes with Trump making smart decisions that aren't really political in nature, because I think most Democrats, Republicans, and independents are frustrated about what drug prices are.
So I thought this was fascinating because it's yet again one of those moments where, just to go over this, the beginnings of a Trump-China trade deal framework, India and Pakistan ceasefire, last U.S. hostage returned alive from Hamas, executive order on prescription drug prices, the beginning of South African refugee resettlement in America, also announced over the weekend. Stephen Miller talked about that. I think that's fascinating, and I'll talk about that later on. But the objection to you can't bring 50 white South Africans to America legally, but you can bring 10 million plus people from wherever the heck else in the world. There's something going on there. Okay, there's a problem there with the way that the Democrats and the left view our immigration policy. That's putting it mildly. So we'll discuss that, Clay, in a little bit. But just on the prescription drug thing, this is one of these moments where the initial reactions: is it constitutional? Is he going to be able to do this? What's going on here? Okay, I understand it's a big swing, and maybe it doesn't work out exactly as planned. But here's what I do know is crazy: that in America, we have drug companies that are doing all this R&D, billions of dollars, bringing a new drug to market. And those of you listening, a lot of you know, the drug companies, you know how I feel about this. Yes, I'm not talking about the COVID vaccines, but in general, the drug companies provide drugs that we all need, okay? People need, you need your statins. Listen to your doctor about some of these blood pressure medications, et cetera. They're extending life. They're doing amazing things. GLP-1s, you see the latest data on this? Help with alcohol addiction and gambling addiction as well. Big studies coming out to show that this is short-circuiting the addiction impulse, Clay.
And for people who don't know the GLP, this is basically the
Ozempic,
the weight loss, Ozempic, which is the
way
it's semaglutides.
Tirzepatide, all these different drugs you see out there. There's Wegovy, Ozempic, they have all these different names. Now I sound like I'm doing a big pharma commercial. I'm just saying there's a lot of these drugs out there. But Clay, here's the fundamental thing that Trump, and this is a big expense for people, the big monthly expense, and it's one you can't really get around, right? I mean, if eggs are too expensive, you can go with chicken of the sea, like canned tuna or something.
Yes.
If your, heart medication is too expensive, you got a big problem, right? Trump sees this. Here's what they say, though. They initially jump on this executive order, and they say, oh, this is price controls. And they might even have one of the reporters asked this question. Well, we can pull it. But what's fascinating to me, Clay, is we live in a country where our drug companies, it costs billions of dollars. It's over $1 billion to get a new drug to market. Our drug companies are bearing this enormous cost so that other countries all over the world can pay 10% of what we're paying for the same drugs.
Sense at all. I agree. And I think this is
the point. But that's your reaction is the reaction that everyone is. That makes no sense. I shouldn't be able to cross the border into Canada and, get the GLP-1 or get the, Lipitor or, whatever your drug is for 30% of the cost, 10% of the cost. I mean, it depends on which drug you're talking about. Clay, it's completely insane. And instead of people looking at this and saying in the media, wow, Trump's onto something, they go, oh, why is he doing this? It's going to be a shock to the drug supply chain.
No doubt. And also, I think it just goes to Trump's ability to take 80-20 issues and cut across the line, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. And I just look at this weekend. I think it may have been the best weekend of the Trump administration so far. And the amount of work that they got done and the amount of success that we are now already seeing. Trump, by the way, speaking of not ceasing to work, has boarded Air Force One to take the trip to the Middle East and begin the Middle East tour, which I think is going to be filled with a ton of positivity. Here's where they are, Buck. The only thing that I'm hearing on a negative basis coming out of this weekend now is the jet from Qatar, right? Like this is pretty much and I imagine this will be a huge focus, and we'll get into that on some level. I just got back. This is kind of a name drop on flying Air Force One. Trump is super frustrated with the fact that it is taking forever for the new generation of Air Force One planes to be created by Boeing. And it is indefensible how long they have been building this thing. And so we'll see what ends up happening with the details surrounding this jet, which might be provided by Qatar. I think the challenge in general there is, as Trump typically goes, bull in a china shop style, there are reports that he's going to get $1 trillion in investment made by all these different Middle Eastern countries and American-based companies and growth. And I'm unfortunately convinced that a $400 million jet, which is a tiny pinprick of the overall work that he's going to do, is going to turn into the media focus. That's the only negativity I would say that you can really even point to coming out of the weekend. And maybe we'll take some of your calls on that. I do know this is coming out of Trump's frustration with the long-going and long-running new generation of Air Force One planes, which Boeing has been able to get done. So that's kind of where we are from that perspective, which was, I thought, an incredible Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, some big wins for the Trump administration on the horizon, and a bit of a victory lap day on Monday and Sunday. There's some things, for example, the China deal, we don't really know anything yet in specifics. We know that it's early stage, but the markets are reacting already to the sense that Trump really does want to make a deal. He actually wants to make a deal. He's not just looking to flip over the tables and smash everything and see what happens afterwards. And it again brings us back to these fundamental recognitions, or these fundamental realities. China has been cheating on trade with us for a long time in a way that it comes clearly at our expense and a lot of other countries' expense, and something should be done about it. Like that's the fundamental principle he's doing. The drug thing, same idea. Why are American drug companies charging you who listen to this 5 or 10x what you can get these drugs for and other, why are people flying to Mexico?
It's absolutely insane that you would go, and we've done this, across the border of Mexico to buy prescription drugs or Canada, and you can get them for a fraction of the price. I mean, someone explain why that
Yeah.
makes sense in any
And
way.
people say, oh,
Rational.
but now he's going to do price controls in the drug companies. Hold on a second. A free market in drugs would be anybody can make these drugs. The government is the one that has to step in and enforce intellectual property rights on these. And so the government is already regulating this because otherwise anybody could make the drugs, and then you hurt the incentive for the R&D, of course. But why is it that we have a market that is not free and penalizes Americans? This is the part of it, right? There'd be one thing. You're talking about price controls. There are price controls. Other countries say, you want to sell this to our people? This is what it's going to cost. And they go, okay, as long as we can rinse the American people, that's fine with us. Well, that shouldn't be fine with them, right? Again, you don't have to be an expert in the pharmaceutical industry to understand that there's something wrong here.
If we create the drug that is a United States-based corporation, why in the world should Americans then get gouged on the price of this drug? And I give him credit. You know who was actually saying this is a really good idea and it should happen?
Mark Cuban, your boy, Mark
Cuban and I haven't agreed on anything in a long time, but he's got a healthcare company that he is trying to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. And his argument is that there's a lot of middle management. And I don't even get me started. I mean, every single person I bet listening to us at some point in time has had to be on the phone with their healthcare insurer arguing about what in the world happened on a bill or why that this charge exists the way it does. And it's almost impossible and unintelligible, much like the tax code is for your average American.
Right. Well, it's the same. I remember I went into an ER once and couldn't even get seen. I had like a stomach, terrible food poisoning. Couldn't even get seen, so I just went home. They charged me $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember saying, what do you, I didn't even get to see a doctor. They said, no, but we checked your blood pressure at check-in.
Yeah.
They're charging me $1,000 to check my blood pressure and then tell me to sit in a chair with people coughing on me and like bleeding all over me. Like that doesn't seem like a free market. Same thing with these drugs, Clay. Oh, okay. It costs me, a compounding pharmacy can make this stuff for pennies on the dollar, but it should cost me 10 times what it costs in the UK. Same drug.
Do you remember, as many dads are, I couldn't find my health insurance card because I'm somewhat incompetent. I was with one of our kids at school. I'm sorry, at a walk-in clinic. And so they treated us as if we didn't have health insurance, and we got billed, and it was like $20. And then my wife could compare it with the ones with our health insurance bill. And
better to be uninsured
$1,000.
than insured at these hospitals sometimes, which just goes to show how perverse the whole thing. But look at this way. Better to be non-American than American when it comes to buying drugs from American companies.
Yes.
These are domestically based companies. This is insane.
Over the weekend, Buck, we'll talk about this. Laura wanted to shoot guns. This was what she wanted to do. It
was awesome.
Yeah. I
very proud of the Travis family this weekend. Very proud.
Shared a couple of videos with Buck. The boys loved it. We had a great instructor. And we're on the road, and there isn't great cell phone reception there. So my wife took our rapid radios with us. In the event that we were in rural West Tennessee, that we might have needed an ability to get in touch, we had our rapid radios with us. These are modern-day walkie-talkies. Kids love them, but they're super simple. You can talk from one side of the country to the other. They allow you to connect with anyone via the nationwide LTE network cell phone towers, and they will stay up. Typically, there's at least one network that is going to be working when everything else catastrophically is down. No monthly fees, no contracts to sign. A rather small annual fee keeps your device current. We have them here. You can charge them. They last for 5 days if you're worried about something running out. We've got them charged. We've got them in the Travis household. Kids love them. Lots of fun. Your whole family can get them very affordable at rapidradios.com. Up to 60% off, free UPS shipping from Michigan, plus a free protection bag. Add code radio for an extra 5% off. That's rapidradios.com. 60% off, free UPS shipping from Michigan. These guys are great. Buck and I have met them. They've got a fantastic American company in Michigan. Free protection bag. Code radio. That's rapidradios.com. Code radio.